Welcome back to War of the Ring Breakdown. We're here at the fight phase. This is phase 4 of the 5 phases, where there's really only 4 phases, but priority counts for some reason. It's the fight phase, it's the fun phase. That's what it should be called. So, we've done our priority, we've done our movement, we've done our shooting, we've made our charges, and now we're ready to kill. So, the person with priority picks a fight, and that fight is resolved first. Does the person with priority units get to fight first? No. Fighting is done in a very strict order. Monsters fight, and all monsters fight at the same time. Cavalry fight, all cavalry fight at the same time. Then infantry fight, and all infantry fight at the same time. So we pick a fight. It's between cavalry and infantry. And no matter what, those cavalry are going to strike before the infantry. Even if they were charged, no matter what, the cavalry always strike first. If a troll charges a bunch of riders of Rohan, the troll strikes first. Monsters, cavalry, infantry. That's the basic strike order. Now, the same units strike at the same time. So Ents and trolls just pummel one another. Riders of Rohan and Wild Riders take each other out. Infantry kill other infantry. However, if the Riders of Rohan kill 5 orcs, those 5 orcs are removed before the orcs make their strikes. So there's less strikes coming back at the cavalry. If a troll kills a Rider of Rohan, that's one less Rider of Rohan to attack back that troll. So the same units strike simultaneously. Units who are higher up strike first, and the casualties are removed before that unit gets to fight. It doesn't make sense. It'll make sense more sense as we go on. So let's build our pool. So Riders of Rohan get 2 attacks per base. So 3 times 2 is 6. So I've got 2, 2, and 2. And then we consult the thing, the chart. We consult the chart on page 47, and this is the chart that you will be using basically most turns. It's just helpful to look at the chart. So from top to bottom, charging dice. Now cavalry only have 2 attacks, but they get 6 attacks on the charge, which is where they get. So a charging unit of cavalry has the same amount of attacks as a unit of infantry. That's why your cavalry need to be charging, by the way, is you need to charge in and get those extra 6 attacks. So suddenly the 2-2-2 becomes 8-8-8. Fighting, so the fight value. Remember we looked at the shoot value earlier, and it had the number, the slash, the number, and the plus. So we're looking at the first number now. The F value, the fight value. You take the standard fight value of your unit and compare it to the standard fight value of your opponent's unit. So you'll see here the captain has a higher fight. Ignore that for now. Riders of Rohan fight 4. Orcs are fight 3. So 3 minus 4 is 1. So the Riders of Rohan have 1 higher fight value than the orcs. They're going to gain 1 dice each per company in the fight. So that 2 has become 8, plus 6 for charging, has become 9, plus 1 for having a higher fight value. Suddenly, these 2 attack cavalry have become 9 attack cavalry. Now, if you have a hero, say we've got a captain who is fight 5, the captain's fight value only applies to the command company, which is the base that he's in. His fight value is compared to the base value of the unit. So even if the other unit has a hero in it, we compare the captain's fight to the unit's fight. He's got an extra 2 fight value than the orcs. So his company's fight is worked out as 5 against the orcs 3, which is plus 2. They've already got the 1, so we'll add another 1. That sounds convoluted. Basically, the 3 companies of Riders of Rohan have 4, 5, 4 fight values compared to 3, so they get 1, 2, 1 extra bonus dice. Write that out with a pen and paper, it'll make much more sense. Heroes don't defend, they attack. That's basically the way to remember it. So if your hero is in the command company, he's attacking, he's getting extra bonus dice. And that's how heroes give you extra dice, by the way. Their higher fight value from the command company gives you bonus dice. So our Riders of Rohan now have was it 9, 10, 9? That's 28 dice, which is a lot more than 6, which is what on paper you would originally think of it as. So they've got 28 dice for this fight. Now, you lose dice, so the companies lose dice if they're charged in the flanks. So, say one of those companies with 9 dice had been charged in the flank, they'd lose 3 of those 9. You go back down to 6. If they've been charged in the rear, they'd lose 5. Go down to, 4. If your company is disordered, you only ever have 1 dice, no matter if you're fight 10 against fight negative 10, 1 dice. If you're disordered, you're not fighting, you're scattered. We'll get to disordered at the end of this, so I'll mention it here for brevity. So you take your attacks, you add your charge bonus, you add the difference between your fight and the enemy's fight. Heroes only affect the company they're in. Remember, companies are the trays, formations of the units. And if you roll a 6 for the charge, not only do you get to move 6 inches instead of whatever else you roll, you also get plus D3 dice per base. Some units get this on a higher value. So Knights of Dol Amroth, on a 4+, they get this bonus dice. But generally, it's only on a 6. So if you roll a 6 charge, that's the unstoppable charge. That's the one you want, plus D3 dice per base. So you take all of your big pool of dice, and you roll them all at once. And just like shooting, you take your strength value, compare it to strength is here, strength, compare it to your enemy's defense value, you got to equal or beat that number. So strength 3, defense 5, I'm going to say that's 5s, almost certain that's 5s. Roll the dice, any 5s or higher, 5s or 6s, are kills. And orcs are resilience 1, so as many 5s and 6s as you roll, as many orcs die. Now, say you've killed 12 orcs. So a unit, the tray of 8 gets removed, and another unit of 4. Now, that happens before the orcs build their pool. Before they strike, before they build their pool, they take their casualties. So the Riders of Overrun have just killed 12 orcs. Keep them off to the side. That matters later. Now, remember, you can't play musical wounds. You can't have 4 orcs from each base die. It's got to all be from the one company. Unlike shooting, if you take a trays with the casualties, you're not driven back. This is close combat, people die. You're braced for it now, you're ready, you're not going to be backing off as soon as Bob gets killed. Screw Bob, I'm trying to stop myself being killed, or I'm trying to get this guy in front of me. It's a bit different in close combat. So now the orcs get to strike back at the Riders of Rohan. The orcs were originally going to have 4, 1, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. But Unit 4 has been wiped out. So it's 1, 2, 3. They generate 8 dice per base. So 8 and 8. And orcs they have a special rule, but just ignore that for now. Let's just say the one supporting company, since they're in the rear rank, is going to give 1 dice. So they have a pool of 6, 8, and 8 is 16, plus 1 is 17. There's a captain with the orcs, and he's fight 4. So compare the fight 3 to the fight 4 is -1, so nothing happens. If your fight value is lower than your opponent's, there is no penalty for that. You're not penalized for not being as good, you're just rewarded for being better. That's sort of the way War of the Ring generally works for close combat, is you're not punished, your opponent is just greatly rewarded. You're not punished for being charged, it just sucks to be you. You're not punished for having not as good a combat ability, it just really sucks to be you because you're going to get hit more. Which I quite like. I'd much rather the better troops perform better than the standard troops perform worse, because the standard troops are meant to be the standard. They're meant to be the baseline which you draw other stuff from. And if your good troops suddenly are fighting, if they're not getting bonuses, the enemy's getting negatives, then what's really happening here? I want to see really good units rather than kind of okay units and trash units, but that's just my personal preference. Anyway, even with the captain's fight of 4, it equals the standard fight 4 in the Riders of Rohan, so no extra dice. 8 and 8 is 16, plus 1 is 17. Roll the dice. This time the Orc strength 3 is looking at the Rider's strength 5. The reason that the number in the brackets is because they have shields. Cavalry get a +1 bonus with shields in the front. Infantry get a +2 bonus. That's how that works. And say the orcs roll 3 5s. They roll 3 5s, not really good. So take those 3 hits. Now, normally that's 3 dead. But we look at the resilience value. Remember that from the shoot phase. The resilience value of the Riders of Rohan is 2. So 2 of those dice kill the Rider of Rohan. We put him to the side. That extra 1 is a floating dice. Unless you can use Might to increase a 4 to a 5, that 5 there is going to be discarded. So extra hits get discarded. They don't get counted over. Same with shooting. And we end the combat with 12 dead orcs, 1 dead Rider of Rohan. Believe me, that's a very standard situation when a bunch of cavalry charge headlong into infantry. Let's do the reverse. Say the orcs had charged into the riders. The cavalry had been just caught flat-footed and the orcs have come out and attacked them. The cavalry would still strike first, although this time they'd have their 2 attacks per base, +1 for the fight value, with the hero's company getting an extra 2 dice instead of 1. So suddenly, from 28 dice, we are down to 6, 7, 8, 10 dice. We have lost 18 dice by not charging. That's huge. That's why cavalry need to charge. They still get to strike first, but it's they're going to kill maybe like 3 orcs instead of 12. It's going to be bad. The orcs now get to strike back. This time they're going to have their 2 full support companies, which is not only 1 dice each, but it's an extra dice. And infantry, when they charge, only get 1 dice for charging. So basically you're going to have 20 attacks instead of 17, which is not a big deal. But the reason it's a big deal is that you've gained 3 attacks, your opponent has lost 18 attacks. That's why you want to be charging, even if you're infantry. So infantry on the charge get 1 attack dice, cavalry get 6, although if cavalry charge other cavalry, they only get 2. So that's common sense. Cavalry should be fighting infantry on the charge. If you are charged by infantry and you are cavalry, your unit is basically dead. You're done. You're not going to kill anybody. The best you can hope for is to run away and then come back. You're screwed. Which is actually really good, because that's how it should be. If my cavalry are bouncing infantry off them when they get charged, that's a broken game, and I'm not really going to get into that very much. So, anyway, those are just 2 examples of how combat can work. Let's go back to what really happened in the official, lore-friendly, canon version of this story, where the cavalry charged into the orcs, and they've killed 12 orcs and lost 1 rider. Now, whoever kills the most wins the fight. It doesn't matter how much they win it by, 1 or 20, it doesn't matter. There is no penalty for losing by more than 1. There is no benefit to killing more than 1 more enemy than losing friendlies. It doesn't matter. It's just a winner and a loser. There is no margin. On a matter of a draw, nothing happens. You separate 1 inch, and that's the end of the fight. If you win, the enemy backs away 1 inch, you're good. Don't worry about it. You're fine. If you lose, let's take the orcs here. So the orcs have lost. They back away 1 inch from the riders, and they roll a d6. Now, on a 1 to 5, do a courage test. If you fail, you take the amount of hits that you failed by. So, the orcs have a captain. They roll a 4 for their courage test. Captain's courage is 3. 4 and 3 is 7. Remembering, of course, courage is 2d6 plus courage equals 10. So they got a total of 7. That's 3 lower than 10, so they'll take 3 extra casualties. 3 orcs run away. If you roll a 1 and you're under 50% formation strength, so if you start with 4 units and you're down to 2 trays, and you roll a 1 and you fail the courage test, you're wiped out. Very rarely happens. Normally a 1 to 5 is basically you take an extra casualty if you fail the courage test, and you are disordered, which is the scary, terrible, bad thing you don't want to happen. So when you're disordered, you sort of mangle the tray up a little bit, and you can't move, you can't shoot, you can't charge, you can't do anything. The only thing you can do is back off. Get away from the enemy. To be undisordered, at the start of your priority phase, the start of your movement phase, roll 2d6, add your courage, get 10, pass a courage test, and you're undisordered and you can act as normal. You do not want to be charged when you are disordered, because you get 1 dice per company that's actually fighting, and that's it. You get your... It's as if everyone is a supporting company. So suddenly your 9-man unit of goblins, instead of rolling a whole bunch of dice, is rolling 9 maximum. Your big tough guys still keep... Like if your defense 10, you keep your defense 10, but you're only putting 1 dice out. That's going to be a bad combat for you. You do not want to be disordered. It's one of the worst things that can happen to you in the game, aside from being dead. Obviously. So the amount you lose by doesn't matter. It's just winning and losing. So if you skin your teeth, doesn't matter. You can make your own law reason up for this. Like, they just won, but it was just enough. Or they killed just that 1 extra goblin and it pushed them over the edge. And if you lose and you roll a 6, nothing happens. You back away an inch and you stay there. That's called being steadfast, I think it is. 6s are great. When you roll a 6... the end of your thing, man, you're just standing there and you take it. You've lost 3 companies of freaking goblins. You've killed no enemy, and you're just like, yeah, I'll fight you again. I don't care. I'm goblins. We don't care about losses. Or you do the other way. It's like you've lost 2 companies of elves and the enemy's lost nothing. For some reason, your elves just didn't kill anyone. And you're like, no, we're going to stand here and fight to the death because we're elves and we're better than everybody else. You can make your own law reasons up. But basically, 1 to a 5, courage test, lose the amount you fail by. If you pass the courage test, you just become disordered. 6, nothing bad happens to you. Now, if cavalry win a fight, they roll an extra d6 after the panic test has been done. So the cavalry win, our cavalry win, the orcs are disordered, they lost another 3 guys, cavalry roll a d6. This is what's called an overrun charge or something. Unstoppable charge or relentless charge. I can't remember the exact word, but when cavalry win a fight on the charge, they roll a dice, and if they roll a 6, they get to charge and fight again, which is awesome. So you smash into the orcs, you break them up, you roll a d6, you get a 6, you charge into them while they're all disordered, they get 3 dice, you've got your 28, and you wipe them out. That's generally what's supposed to happen. Keep in mind, you do have to roll a 6 to get this off. It's a 1 in 6 chance. You're probably not going to get it, but it's handy to have as cavalry. And so if you charge somebody, wipe them out, you still get to roll. If you roll a 6, you can charge somebody else. It's a really cool thing the cavalry have. It's just keep the momentum up. Keep going, keep going. However, we haven't talked about the heroic fight yet. And the heroic fight is basically just that. I picked that unit, that this formation is going to fight first. This fight is going to happen first. Sorry. So my hero's fight is going to happen first. Follows the same order. So if I'm in infantry, I declare heroic fight against a troll. The troll strikes first. That's just the fight order. You can never mess with the fight order. Ever. There's nothing that makes infantry strike before monsters. Ever. It just doesn't happen. You can strike at the same time as monsters with a character or something, but you're never going to be like, and the infantry fights first, no matter what. It doesn't happen. Always follow the strike order. Monsters, cavalry, infantry. So heroic fight is the start of the phase. You say, you know what? I'm very confident I can win this fight here. So my hero in this formation is going to call heroic fight, which means that fight's going to happen first, and if he wins, everybody involved in that fight gets to move and fight again. So for example, if you've got 2 cavalry units charging side by side, this one calls a heroic fight, this one gets the benefit if they win. Which is really cool. Or 2 infantry units, same deal. So you win, you get to move and fight again. You still have to roll to do a charge. So you have to roll your standard 2+, charge in. But what it really does is you charge in, your enemy comes back, they're all disordered, and you pounce on them. That's what it's really simulating. Is that super initiative of just like, the enemy's in full retreat, don't stop now, let's go. Or, okay, we push them back, let's deal with the guys over there. We push them back, let's deal with the guys behind us. Hopefully there's nobody behind you. Well, actually, you can't charge behind you, but you get what I mean. Like, let's deal with another threat right now. Or, let's follow up and kill these guys. The main use of it is to charge disordered enemies. It's really useful on monsters, so monster heroes, like my beloved Khandish King on Chariot, is one of my favourite units to run. It's got a 360-degree line of sight, charges in, does a heroic combat, deals with this unit, and then just charges in the rear of another unit over here. Or this unit's kind of in trouble, charge in the flank, or even the front. So monsters can be deadly with a heroic charge. With a heroic fight. Very deadly. I know that was a lot. Let's go back through it very quickly. Charges have all been done. The person with priority picks the fights, the order the fights are resolved in. Picks a fight, resolve it in the strike order. Monsters, cavalry, infantry. Strikes are all resolved before the next one. Same tier, fights at the same time. Page 47 is your chart. Charge bonus. Fight value. Higher fight value gets extra dice. No penalty for being lower. Heroes only affect their own company. Roll your dice. Same as shooting. There's only one roll. There's no to hit and to wound. There's just wounds. Sorry, there's just hits, which is the term they use. Anything that's equal to or better than the wound chart does a hit. Compare it to the resilience. Kill the figures. Whoever kills the most wins the combat. Doesn't matter how many you kill. Roll a panic test. On a 1 to 5, courage test. If you fail, you take a bunch of casualties and then you're disordered. If you pass, you're just disordered. On a 6, you're steadfast. And then heroic fights. If you win the fight, you get to do it all over again. So they are the 4, really 5, but mostly 4 phases of War of the Ring. Stay tuned. We're going to have a look at monsters and magic in the next video. So thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful day.